Everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome. We are live. It's amazing what it takes just to get stuff going in live, because believe it or not, it's one of those things you anticipate, you know what you want to do, but yet there seems to be just a little bit of stuff that just goes wrong. I was setting up the stream just a few minutes ago, and all of a sudden I'm running a bunch of programs on one computer, and that computer cut. Anyway, we are live, we're here, we're excited, we're ready to go. If you don't know, my name is John McLaughlin. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We are having a blast. Let me, I'm going to do this over here. and see if I can minimize that. Crop this over here a little bit out of the way so that I don't see that. I need that to be no, do that. The joys of live broadcasts. We've got a fun show today, and it may sound like I'm a little flustered, but don't worry about it. I'm here. I'm enjoying it, and it's always good. So let's do this. Let's take that off. I want that to stay. Now take that. I want to fun. So one thing that I'm working on right now, and I will show you in just a minute. Today we're going to be talking, as the title said, Atem what? We're going to be talking about all things Atem minis. Everything from the Atem Mini all the way up to the Atem Mini, the Atem Mini Extreme SDI. So all the way from the very first one all the way down to the back end. So if you've ever wanted to get in on the Atems, or maybe you are, and Jeff, I do see you on. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you're watching on the replay, go ahead and hashtag replay. Let me know. If this is your first time here on a live show, go ahead and hit that like button and leave comments in the comments below, simply because it helps with algorithms, and we are trying to build the channel up, and we're having fun while we do it. So today we're talking about Atems. If you've hung out with us at all, whether on this show last week or any of our previous shows with JAmemories on Saturday nights, you know that we use the Atem minis to stream all of our content. We not only do we stream with it, but we also record content with it, and we also create videos. And I'll show you a little bit of how to do that. That's not really where we're going tonight. We're talking about the evolution of the Atems tonight. But one of these nights, I will actually show you guys some of the layouts and some of the just a little tips and tricks. So yeah, we're ready to have some fun. So who's ready to have some fun? I am ready to have some fun. Yeah. So let me see where that is. The joys of live broadcast. I'm trying to find out where the okay, yes, there it is. So yeah, so here we go. Hey John, finally got on a live stream. There you go, Jeff. Always excited to have people that I know on the streams, because then you can just give me feedback. So yeah, it's amazing when you get the comments on stream, and it says a lot. It says a lot when you're getting stuff ready and you plan and you hope, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And Jeff also says there's always something been there. And I actually had the privilege of helping Jeff and Jeff and his church build up their streaming platform when he was in Iowa. So, it helps that, I have people that I've helped in the past as well as new faces. So, obviously, I don't know everything. You can probably learn a lot more by watching Getty from Blackmagic Design. And, he knows everything because he's one that made the programs. But at the same time, we're having fun, we're enjoying ourselves, and we're getting ready to do some fun stuff. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, believe it or not, we are going to talk about the Atem Minis. I need to do something real quick before I do this. Let me take let me take this. There we go. All right. So, obviously, I'm still working through some stuff, and that is fine. So, we are going to talk about the Atem Minis. Now, I've got a little bit of background history to start with. So, obviously, I want to go over that first. So, one of the things that we here at JAmemories love to do is we love to test, we love to troubleshoot, and when things don't go wrong, it's very frustrating, but at the same time, it's very rewarding because this is what I do for a living. I mean, you all know that I work for I work for Richard Roberts Ministries, and this is my primary job. So now that I have it at home, I have the joy of doing this stuff on a regular basis without the frustration because of the fact that I am doing stuff on a regular basis here continually throughout the day. So one of the things that that Blackmagic did. So if you go back in the history of Blackmagic got start building little converters. That was where they started, and they quickly decided, converters weren't what everybody needed. People needed other things as well. So what they did was they said, okay, we want to get into new spaces. We want to build our brand. So back in 2017, they said, you know what, we want to get into the streaming platform, and people are wanting a standalone product, something that could do the heavy lifting and create a clean, nice looking stream without having to rely on software or hardware from a computer that, like me, just crashed about 15 minutes before the show. That's why I'm a little flustered, because I'm dealing with that. Obviously no one likes it when our stuff crashes right before a show. I don't know about you, but I honestly do not like having stuff crash before a live show, because I spend a lot of time prepping, and it's extremely frustrating when I've got everything worked out. I've tested once, I've tested twice, and then all of a sudden the third time I hit go, everything crashes. But in the same respects, I'd rather do it 15 minutes before they open the show than 15 minutes after. because then everything crashes and I'm not able to do anything. So, so back in 2017, Blackmagic Design decided, hey, we're going to get into the live streaming platform. So they came out with the Blackmagic Web Presenter, the very first web presenter that they came out with. And it was right before I ended up going to NAB. And so I started looking into Blackmagic, started looking at what they had, and going, we could really use this at the ministry to go online. Because all the information I had, and back then Blackmagic had a hard time with really explaining what everything was. So they had this box that they said was a streaming box. You could stream from it and do all this stuff. But the more I looked at it, the more I got the impression that said, no, not really. It's not everything it coughed up to be, because of I need to scoot over a little bit. Looking at my preview monitor and I see that I'm not going to be in the shot. Joys of having multiple monitors in the room. So they came out with the web presenter. The caveat to the web presenter is, yes, it did all the heavy lifting. You can feed it either SDI, which is a standard in broadcast, or HDMI for the consumer. So you get an HDMI camera or an SDI camera, or better yet, you could take an HDMI camera or an SDI switcher. Now back then it wasn't full HD, or I think it was 720 at the time, but they've gotten that up over the years. But back in 2017, YouTube was only doing 720 back then. You couldn't do full HD on YouTube, and you couldn't do Facebook wasn't really that popular either. So Jeff is saying he's hearing something behind me. Give me 1 second, because I can't hear. Are you hearing squeaking, Jeff? Because that could be my seat. My seat's very squeaky. Let me see if I can, give me a second. Let me see if I can get a different seat so that I'm not squeaking. Because there is no other microphone on. Hold on, let me get my headset. There's the joys of okay. Somehow my computer was routed through the microphone, and I honestly have no idea how that is. So I turned that off, and yeah, all right. Wow. That's amazing that would do that. So, the joys of not wearing headphones when you first get online. And Jeff, you can leave those comments in the chat. I'm more apt to see them there than on my phone. So feel free to leave those kind of comments in the chat. Believe me, I watch enough streamers to know that happens all the time, and we just have to deal with it. Because we can prep as much as we want, we can plan as much as we want, but there's always going to be something that just does not fly. So as I was saying, the Blackmagic Web Center, they had this box. The one caveat for me that I didn't like about the Web Center was the fact that you still had to have the computer. Because what the Web Center did is, yes, it did the heavy lifting. It converted the signals. It down converted the signal to a feed that could be fed to YouTube or Facebook or I'm not sure what other streams at the time they could do, but it did convert it to that. But you still had to use a computer because you plugged the web presenter into a computer as a web camera. So you replaced your web camera with the web presenter, and then now you could use your full switchers or anything like that. Well, because of that, because of the web presenter, 2 years later, in September of 2019, the very first Atem came into play, and that was the Atem MIni. Now, the Atem MIni, what it did, it was basically took the engine of the web presenter, put it into this little box right here, and it gave you a whole bunch of more features. You have a key, a lower third bug, so like the bug right here, you could do that. You have 4 HDMI inputs now. So now you can do the yeah, Jeff, you are a sound guy, so thank you for showing me that or mentioning that. So so the Atem MIni, so you went from one and having to have a independent switcher outside of what you were using, and so they gave you the option of doing a 4 camera. They also had audio into it, so you could do audio off of a camera, or as you can see right towards the top, like right up there, you can see the fact that you have 2 mic inputs, which means you can bring in external mics and use that. Or some people would use an audio board and feed that into the Atem. Now again, the caveat to this was this was the first round, the very first round of Atem MInis, and believe me, when it first came out, everybody was jumping on it, trying to get their hands on it, and it was the thing to have. Because if you remember, in September 2019, people had no idea what was right around the corner. And when January and February hit of 2020, everybody was trying to buy up the Atem MInis. Because everybody was getting ready to go home. Everybody's working on streaming. So Blackmagic had these boxes sitting on the shelf, and they flew off the shelves. Because people then could do all kinds of stuff. And now, again, the caveat to that was you still had to use a computer. You plug this in as a webcam to stream to your Facebook, YouTube, whatever you could do. And because it was a webcam, you can stream anything. People used it to stream to Zoom. Used it to do their webinars, and used it to do all kinds of lovely things that could be done. Well, obviously, that was one of the first models. Now, in August of 2020, no, April of 2020, Blackmagic decided to change the game a little bit and came out with the Atem MIni Pro. Now, if you look at it, it looks similar, but it's not exactly the same. You got more buttons because you have more features. Number one, you have recording on the Atem. Now, you may be sitting there going, why would I record? I'm streaming. I don't need to record my stuff. Believe me, I record everything on my streams. That way I can go back and edit and make either snippets, and I'm not using the online version of the feed. Now, you may be saying that, well, that talks good and fine. The other big change that I didn't even mention in the Atem because it didn't have it. One of the big problems that the Atem Mini had that the Atem Mini Pro answered was the multi-view. As a broadcaster and as a production house, people who use switchers like to be able to see all of their cameras in front of them. They like to see the program and the preview bus in front of them so they know, okay, what's coming up next, what's coming up afterwards. So with all of that being said and done, Atem Mini Pro, they added on the HDMI out the multi-view. Now, if you look over to the far side, right above FTB, I know this picture is a little hard to read, but the far right side, all the way to the other side, those 6 buttons say 1, 2, 3, 4, preview and program. No, program and multi-view. So what that means is you can either take a full screen of one of your sources and feed that out the HDMI, or you can take your multi-view. And you couldn't do both. Now, that was a big thing about the Atems, is you had one HDMI out. So you either used the multi-view or you used the full screen, and then that you obviously have that caveat of, do you use the multi-view for yourself or do you use the full screen program feed for another room? And people were going back and forth about what the best way to do things was because of the multiple uses. Now, it did help that now you could plug your SD card into, not SD card, but your flash drive, USB-C, into the Atem and record. Now, one thing I didn't mention that they also added that was a humongous game changer, and this is why I now own an Atem Mini Pro. They finally got away from the computer and have a standalone recorder. So not only, they have a standalone streamer. Inside this little box, they have a streaming engine. And you can stream to one source at a time from this box. Now you could go to Facebook, you could go to Twitch, Twitter, and with a little bit of programming, you could go to any RMPT stream, like Amazon's Wowzer, or if you have a client who has an RMPT stream that they want you to feed to, you could do that. You got to do some programming on the other side, but that's one of the things. So, that's the Atem Mini Pro. A big change, a big jump, 6 months after the original one came out. Now, the big problem that they came out with was because March was like the peak of when everybody was going home in 2020, and everybody was putting orders in for the Atem Mini, and then Blackmagic came out with the Atem Mini Pro in April, everybody was like, seriously? So everybody here hit brakes on the Atem Mini and said, I want the Atem Mini Pro. It actually took me 6 months to get my Atem Mini Pro. And I ordered it in, not April, May, I think June of that year. Because it was popular, because the people wanted it. So after the Atem Mini Pro, they decided 7 months later, I don't even think it was 6 months, it was April to August. April, May, June, July, August. So 4 months later, in August, they came out with the Atem Mini Pro ISO. Now, looking at it directly on it, you go, okay, what's the difference? Not really much. Except one big change. That ISO. That ISO is basically, so they had in the original model, the Atem Mini Pro, a recording engine. It recorded H.264 ProRes, and and it would, no, not ProRes, H.264 MP4 format. Okay, now, the caveat to recording and streaming at the same time is your recording is going to be the same resolution as what you're streaming at. That is across all the board, across all Atem Minis, that's the way it is. It's just one of the things that they have put the limitation on to that. What they did in the Atem Mini Pro ISO model was they said, one recorder is not enough. Let's add 4 more. So now, not only do they have the engine to record the program feed, they now have an engine that will record all 4 inputs. It will capture your media sources that you use for your bugs and your stills. And this is the kicker. This is the one thing that really got me excited when I saw the ISO model. It creates a DaVinci Resolve file that you can open up and have all of your edits right there on the timeline. Now, if you're an editor and you've ever had to take a program feed and cut it down and trim it, you know how valuable it is to have a timeline that has all the cuts in it. Not only that, everything that is recorded, all your video sources, they're time code. Everything's lined up. You can reline all of your clips into the editor, and then cut everything around and move stuff around synchronizationally, and now your editing time is cut down tremendously. I watch a lot of streamers who, when they do videos, when they take their product videos, they'll set up 3 or 4 cameras around the building, around the room, and they won't cut. They won't be doing what I'm doing right now. So what they'll do is they'll hit record. They'll look at one camera. They'll do the whole thing right there, and they've got another camera off to the side pointing for a side shot of them. They've got a camera overhead looking down at whatever they're talking about. They may have a picture up on the screen like I have on the computer, but they're capturing all 4 devices, all 4 sources. They've got their all the audio, wherever the audio is coming from. They've got the stills, and then they go into the NLE. They cut it down to what they want, and then they can output the video tremendously better and a lot faster. So it changed the game. And once again, this has the streaming built into it. Now, what they also did in August of 2020, they came out with a little device. It's almost like one of their converters, but it was the Atem streaming bridge. So what this little box did, it actually created an RMPT stream that the Atem Mini could stream to. So say you had another room on the other side of your building. Say you're in a school and you had a classroom that you needed to send feed. So you're doing a production down in the theater and you need to get to the opposite side of the building, but you don't want to run 5,000 feet of cable. For that matter, you're not going to be able to do that without spending a whole lot of money on boosters and whatnot. So what do you do? Well, the Atem streaming bridge was a solution. You can set the streaming bridge on the same network and the other side of the building and stream to that. Now, the caveat to that is you can't stream to Facebook and YouTube, Facebook or YouTube, at the same time as streaming to the streaming bridge. However, what people did was they looped out of the streaming bridge into another encoder that did the streaming there. So it was like a daisy chain until you got to the last stop, and then that's what streamed out to the web. And people loved it. Now, the other thing about the streaming bridge is you didn't only have to be on the local network. It would work across the internet. You could be across the world and stream to another streaming from the Atem Mini and stream to the streaming bridge, and it would work. Now that is impressive. And that all came out at the same time as the Atem Mini Pro ISO. And people loved it. People, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I bought an Atem Mini Pro like a month before, actually, I think it was right around the same time. I was actually debating about buying the ISO or the Atem Mini Pro. I couldn't remember. But it's all blurry right now, but it was all around the same time. So, all right. So we have the Atem Mini Pro ISO. A great piece of hardware, a great piece of equipment. But once again, not waiting too long, Blackmagic decided to change the game again. They said, you know what? We got enough complaints. People are going 4 inputs. Good, but not good enough. We need to change. We need to up the game even more. And so what they did is they came out with the Atem Mini Extreme. Look at this bad boy. That thing is huge. Comparatively, size-wise, from the Atem Mini to the Atem Mini Extreme, that is huge. And what about all of these buttons on this thing? That thing's massive. So, right off the bat, you notice you have 8 HDMI inputs. 8 inputs. I'm using an Extreme right now. I don't even have 8 inputs. I'm running 1 camera, 4 computers, one that likes to crash in the middle of productions, but that's beside the point. Actually, likes crashing right before the productions, but that's another day's story. But at the same time, 8 inputs? Now, if you take a look at the Extreme, the back, the reason I have the back is because key components. A couple of things that they added to the Extreme that people have been asking for a long time. If you notice, you now have 2 HDMI outputs. So now you can do your dedicated stream output to another encoder or a screen, just a program feed, and at the same time have a multi-view of your production. Because believe me, you get eight inputs, you need a multi-view. Then, if you notice, right next to the HDMI outs, you have two USB ports. One of the problems you run into with the USB ports on the original Atem Minis was you only had one. And that one was tied up, connected to the computer for control, which we haven't talked about. We'll discuss a little bit of that here in a little bit. But the having two, so the problem you come into is with only one USB port, you can't be connected to the computer and record at the same time. So you had to decide, am I going to record or am I going to control? Or am I going to use it as a webcam? Now with the use of two USB ports, you now have the ability to record on one and stream off the second one, whether it be a USB port or just use it for control or whatnot. That was a big plus. Now, if you go to the opposite side of the box, all the way to the far side on the bottom, you'll see the little headphone. Up until this point, Blackmagic Design has not had a dedicated headphone out of the Atem Mini. The only way you could preview your program, your audio, was either feed it to the stream and hope it's working, or plug the Atem multi-view into a monitor that had a headphone out or speakers, and then you could hear through the HDMI. Well, now you have headphones out that you can dedicate to monitor. All of that being said, everything else is the same. Not a couple of features that I have not discussed before. So your downstream keys. You have two downstream keys. Downstream keys are what's running right there. Then you have 4 upstream keys. The view you're looking right now at is 3 upstream keys and a downstream key running all at the same time. So the box right here, the fun one with the circle going, that's 1. The picture with the words is 2, and my picture is 3. And then, of course, the downstream key. If I wanted to make things really complicated, I could run a 4th upstream key and make this whole image look even more complicated than it is already. And this layout right here took about 30 minutes to create. And this is why I needed that computer up and running, so that I could get this image to look right. Otherwise, I'd be stuck with nothing. So with the original Atems, you have 1 downstream key and one upstream key. So with the extreme, you have 4 upstreams and 2 downstream keys. Now, I have to double check. I have to go look and see on the, let me verify. Because I have a Pro right here. I can connect to the Pro. And I just want to see how many keys it has. If it will connect. It sometimes doesn't want to connect. There we go. Yeah, you only have one downstream key and one upstream key in in the Atem Mini Pro line. So with the Atem Extreme, you got 4 upstream keys and 2 downstream keys, which is a big deal when you're dealing with complex videos, because you just never you know, you just never know when you're going to need a complex layout. I mean, I could not do this right now, what I'm doing right now, without the Extreme, because it's just one of those things that it has a lot more abilities. Now, one thing that we haven't discussed either is this little button over to the side. So you see the 8 big buttons on the bottom row, and then you see the 4 buttons in the middle, kind of, before you get to cut. It's hard to read, but you have MP1 and MP2, which is Media Player 1 and Media Player 2. Then you have what's known as SSRC. What in the world is that? And then you have black. Well, let me show you what Let me show you what the SSR is. This is Supersaurus. He said, well, isn't that the same thing I was just watching? No, it's not. So, on top of, and this is a good place to stop right here, because this is, I'll show you the control surface here. Actually, not just yet. That's a little teaser. I'll get to the controls in just a minute. But, you know, all in good time. All in good time. So we're going back to the Atem Mini Extreme. So you now have Supersource, which we'll talk about in just a minute. What else do we have in there? They have a the top row right in the middle. That is almost like a built-in router. But in all honesty, I've talked with a lot of streamers. No one's really using it because it really doesn't do much. And the more complex you get, it just messes things up. I haven't found many people using it. It's cool that that's there. It's just we haven't realized the beauty of it just yet. And Blackmagic Design has not really pushed it and explained what all that can do. So maybe down the road it would be beneficial, but right now we're not using it. So, what else am I missing on the ISO? Oh, yeah, and we'll talk about the software here in just a minute. To go from there. All right. So, what's next? What happened after the Extreme? Well, at the same time, they came out with the Extreme ISO. Because, I mean, they already had the engine built for the ISO models. They just added it to the Extreme. Now, the caveat, the caveat to, between the Atem Extreme and the Atem Extreme ISO is when you're doing ISO recording, you have to have a hard drive that can handle up to 70 megabits per second per feed. Now you gotta remember, it's 8 inputs and the program feed. So you're recording 70 megabit up to 70 megabits per second. Then you're recording all the audio for all 10, 8 input sources, mic 1 and mic 2, and programs. So you got 11 audio. You got all the media that you end up using. Now, I will warn you, and a lot of people don't discuss this, and it got me really frustrated when I started recording with the Atem Extreme ISO. That beautiful button, the Super Source. I loved it. I mean, I just really enjoyed the fact that we had a Super Source that we could build a complex. So, and this is a good time to talk about the Super Source. The Super Source, so you have your 4 upstream keys that we're using right now. We're using 3 of them. The Super Source has 4 keys in itself and a background. So up to 5 sources all at one time on the screen. Now, when they built the recorder, the Super Source, when you pop it up on screen, does record. It's on your program. However, when you pull up your timeline in DaVinci Resolve, because remember what I told you, if you record ISO mode, you get that DaVinci Resolve file. That Super Source shows up as black. So you have to lay back in your program feed and take the Super Source off that. Plus, you can't move it around. You can't adjust the cuts of when that Super Source comes in or goes off, because it's not there. So, and I have put requests in to Blackmagic Design. I know many other streamers have requested that they get that fixed. They have pushed it back to the DaVinci Resolve people. But in all honesty, DaVinci Resolve is owned by Blackmagic Design. Come on, guys. You can do this. You can get it going. And so let's get the ball rolling and get it done. So, is that it? As much as I would love to say yes, we're not done yet. So the Atem Extreme and the Extreme ISO came out in February of 2021. And for a year and a half, that was all we had. And what else would you want, right? Well, Blackmagic decided, you know what? We need one more. We need one more. Came out with the Atem SDI Extreme ISO. And you may be sitting there going, what in the world is that? Well, in all honesty, it's the same exact thing as what we were just looking at. The only difference is, actually, I can't say the only difference because they did add some stuff to it. The Atem Mini, actually it's Atem SDI Extreme. So they dropped the Mini. This is ridiculous. It's not Mini anymore. Atem SDI Extreme ISO. So you are now getting into the broadcast realm of switchers. SDI is a broadcast standard connection, and the reason people use SDI over HDMI is simply because on SDI you can run a heck of a lot longer than HDMI. Because you gotta remember, the Atem, if you connect the Atems to a Blackmagic camera, you can control them. However, you need control back and forth. Okay? So I'm going to tell you a trick right now that will allow you to use the Atem Mini models, the minis and the extremes, with HDMI longer than 25 feet. But you have to go with high-speed fiber HDMI cables. Now the caveat to that is the fact that they're one directional. You don't have that signal path going back and forth. So what Blackmagic decided to do, they said, okay, fine. So they made bi-directional HDMI to SDI converters. So you go out, you come out of the camera, HDMI, go into the converter, convert it down to SDI, put another converter at the other end, come in SDI, and then back out to HDMI. And then that fed, that connection gave you the back and forth instead of going down HDMI fiber, which is one directional, because you could not control the cameras through a one-way connection. You needed that bidirectional fiber HDMI that you get on the copper. You don't get that on that. That's why when you pick up a HDMI fiber cable, you see labels on both ends. One says source and one says display. You have to make sure that you connect those correctly, otherwise the cable won't work. So the SDI model they came out with just recently in July of 2022, this year they came out with that. And it was to answer that age-old question of, let's get into the SDI models, SDI cameras. Now, I have heard, I don't have one of these. I am looking at one of these for the office because we are an SDI house. So this would be a big plus. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hold on, there's more than there. What happened? There's more SDI outputs. Oh yeah, I did say they added some stuff, didn't I? So what they did is, so you have the original 8 inputs, but you also have now 4 SDI outputs. So now you no longer are tied to just 2 outputs. You have 4 output auxes, which just is a game changer. So that super source that you can't record into the stream because it shows up as black, I have heard plenty of people saying, hey, I'm going to take one of those auxes out. And you could do this with the extreme too. Tie up one of your outputs and feed it super source directly and feed it right back in. But you tie up one of your inputs and outputs. But like I said before, I'm not using 8. I am using both outputs, and I'll explain that in just a minute. But on the Atem Extreme ISO, the SDI ISO, you could take your super source, feed that back into one of your inputs, and now you have a complete super source recorded at all times. So you can cut that at any time, take it whenever you want it to. And believe me, when you're editing, it's a big, big deal. So, with that being said, that's it for that. So I'm going to go back to our lovely main feed. Take that off. So as I was explaining before, there's a lot right there on those boxes. But in all honesty, there's more that the Atems can do. More than I can explain in this video. I've already been live for, I don't even know how long, probably about an hour. So I've got to wrap this up sometime. The 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 big plus to all of this is the fact that you get a dedicated software with the Atems. So let me go back over here real quick. Then do that. All right. So this is the control surface for the Atem MIni Extreme ISO. That is what you're seeing what I'm doing right now. I've got my live stream turned off right now. I'm not streaming from this one. I'm actually streaming from the Pro to you guys. But you can see this. So again, here's on the actual surface of the Extreme, you only get one button for keys. Turn one key on. Here you can turn 4 on. Excuse me. You got a drink. You also have the option of changing your transitions. Nice. You've got your preview and program bus right here on top of each other. But one thing I haven't talked about that is built into all of the Atems is this page right here. And of course, it's going to take its time loading into it just because it wants to. You will have on all of the Atems, you have a lovely thing called a media pool. Now, if you know anything about the Atem line of switchers that Blackmagic has, you know that they all have media pools. Some have 20, some have 30, some have 40. I think 40 is the max that they have. But some of the switchers, the big boy switchers, they also have playback and animation where you can do, it's not full videos, but you can do like JPEG pictures, and animated GIFs and things like that. So you have these so that you can change whatever's on the screen. Now, I'm using both right now, so I'm not really sure I want to. I guess I can turn off the bug and show you this. So to change your graphic, very simple. Just drag it over. And then now if I take it on screen, this will override everything because it's there, but I don't want to do that. I want to take mine back, put that back because, you know, I like having my bug up on screen. You know, spend time on stuff, you want to see it up there. Now, I mentioned audio, but I did not give audio the praise it deserves because it definitely deserves praise. Audio interface. Right here, you have basically an audio board. Now, you could buy from Blackmagic or even some other companies an audio interface that gives you control of this portal, but I don't have a reason for that yet. But one thing that they definitely do on every single input, you have a dynamic processing where it has expander, gate, compressor, limiter right there, right in on the line, and you can adjust them. Every single line has its own. You have preamps that you can gain up or down depending on what you need, and you have a full 6-band EQ. that you can add into the feed. And, yeah, these are marked low pass, high pass, but you can change them. You don't have to use them like that. You could do them as these as a high pass or a low pass or a point. You don't know if you can go signal, but anyway, but you get the point. It's a 6-band EQ that you can put in and do that for all 10 of your inputs. So all 8 inputs and then the 2 mics. And on the microphones, and this is an ingenious thing, I'm not using it right now, but they actually have a delay. So you actually can delay, if you notice a significant delay between your video and your audio, you could delay your audio so that it matches up. I thought I had one on, but apparently not. But, and then of course you have your headphones inputs. Now, this is the fun one. Now, this is the Atem camera control. Now, the caveat to having the Atem control is you have to have the Blackmagic cameras. And I believe this works with all of the Blackmagic cameras, whether you have the original studios to the broadcast ones to the Pocket Cinemas. I don't know if it works on the original Pocket Cinema, but I do know it works on the Pocket Cinema, the newer Pocket Cinemas that came out a couple years back, and then the ones that came out just last year. So, you have to use, I don't have a Blackmagic camera, so I can mess with all these settings and it won't change a thing because they're not hooked up to anything. But it's really nice if you have to have that camera control, if you have those cameras, to be able to match, color match, and do all of that stuff. So that's just one of those things that you just love about the switchers. Now, that's a lot to get through. A lot. Hopefully everybody has got something out of it, because believe me, I am exhausted from talking about all this stuff. I am thrilled to be able to share all this stuff because I use this stuff all the time. It is one of those things that when I do productions, I want to know that they're actually having an impact on what I'm doing. And if it's not, then I just don't, there is no point in doing what I do if I don't enjoy what I do. And even with all the frustration, with all the aggravation, there says a lot about what is there and what's not there. So say you're sitting here and going, John, that looks awesome. I would love to get into streaming. I would love to be able to do what you do, and I've got my own images. I've got my own pictures. I've got a small camera, but I would love to be able to put all that together and well, below the video, in the description of this video, whether you're on YouTube or if you're on my website, you can find links to all the different models of Atem Minis. Now, I will warn you, these are affiliate links. And what that means is that I will get a small portion, a small commission from Amazon if you purchase using those links. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps the channel out and helps JAmemories out. Because, I've got visions, I've got dreams, which we will be discussing in a future show. And that one is going to be a doozy. But I hope you all enjoyed yourself today because I had a blast getting ready for this, digging up all the information, and just figuring out what's all the ins and outs. And I didn't cover everything. There's so much more, as Jeff so eloquently said at the end. You know what? Let me get over there. Where is it? Where is that little thing? There we go. Here we go. Oh, I gotta turn that off. There you go. And there's a ton more. Just as Jeff said. Yes, there is a ton more. And you just Jeff did confirm. I don't know. Oh, my software doesn't recognize the end symbol. So it's the 4K and 6K pocket cameras work with this model. Jeff, you got the 6K, correct? Or did you go with the 4K? Let me know in the stream if you got the 4K or the 6K. But yes, that is a he has one of those. We put a package together for him using the Atem MIni Pro and one of the pocket cinemas. He has a 6K. That's right. The 6K was a little bit more expensive, but for the body. But if I remember correctly, talking with my contacts in the industry, the 6K uses the EF mount lenses, which are more prevalent. They're the ones that are on on Canon. Actually, the camera right back here, that's got a EF mount lens on it. I believe that's the kit lens, but the EF mount lenses, they're a little bit more relatively available, and at the same time, they have a little bit better response to low light. So you're not going to spend as much on getting low light lenses. Now, if you want to spend the money, the 4K model is a 4/3 lens. And if that's what you like, then by all means get that. Do you have to use Blackmagic cameras with the Atem Minis? No, I'm not. I'm using a cheap Sony AVHC camera. You know, a $250 camera. Might be why my camera doesn't look as good as Jeff's does, but we won't go there. But it's just, I have a lot of knowledge. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. Do I know everything? No. Do I still reach out to a lot of friends and family and have contacts? I am the first to get on the phone and reach out to somebody because I want to know stuff. I want to be able to get that going. So I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. And remember, if you are watching on the replay, go ahead and hashtag replay so I know. If this is the first time you're watching, go ahead and please like the video. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and you'll be notified when we go live. I am getting ready to start recording some videos and posting videos. I am going to be going live most weeks on Thursday, not Friday. This week I had a problem with the affiliate program with Amazon yesterday. I was all prepped to go live yesterday, and it just didn't work out. So yes, so I moved it to today. and we'll see. Maybe Jeff likes it better on Friday. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with us today. Remember, the affiliate links don't cost you anything extra. It just gives the channel a little bit of extra income. We are working on a few other avenues of income, and if we can get the channel up to, I believe it's 1,000 subscribers, we can monetize the channel. And you say, "Why you monetize the channel? You have to pay for it?" No, you don't have to. It's just one of those things that we can monetize it if we want to. So, and I've got dreams and visions, like I said, and I'm going to be sharing some of that in a future show. So maybe there's something you want me to talk about. Maybe there's a piece of equipment you want me to look into and have on the show. I've got a demo of a PTZ camera coming. I demoed it a couple weeks ago and taped some stuff. Putting that together, so that is coming out here soon. So you can keep your eye out for that. And then, and then we've got some other stuff. And if you want to, you can hang out with me on Saturdays for live at JAmemories Studios, where we talk about Bible and do Bible studies Saturday nights. So if you enjoy those kinds of things, let me know. Just come. You can find that stream on Facebook and YouTube as well. So yes, if you enjoy those kind of things like that. Let me give a big shout out to Jeff Gibson. Thank you for hanging out with us today, and and please take the time to leave a comment in the comments below. And if you don't have nothing else to say, if you have nothing else to do and you don't want to leave a comment, just leave an emoji. You know, it helps with engagement. It helps with algorithms and whatnot. And if this channel is going to take off and do something, then we're going to have fun with it. So God bless you all. Have a great evening. Enjoy your weekend. And we will catch you later in the next stream. And always remember, I end all my streams like this. God loves you no matter who you are or where you are. God bless you. We'll catch you in the next one.
you.